In the early 2000s, Elon Musk faced a moment where his biggest dreams were hanging by a thread that he had built. Everything he had dreamed of, and everything he believed about the future seemed to be slipping through his fingers. The headlines were not kind. The money was running out. The people around him were worried. Some thought he had gone too far, too fast, chasing ideas that sounded more like science fiction than business. But to Musk, those ideas were not fantasies. They were necessities. He didn't just want to make money. He wanted to change the future of humanity. Long before rockets and electric cars defined his name, Musk was a quiet, curious child growing up in South Africa. He was not the most popular kid in school. He preferred books to parties and questions to small talk. Science fiction novels became his escape, his education, and his inspiration. He read about civilizations on other planets, advanced technologies, and brave explorers pushing the limits of what was possible. Those stories didn't feel distant or imaginary to him. They felt like a blueprint for the future. When he was only 12 years old, he taught himself how to program and created a simple video game called Blaster. He sold it to a magazine for a small amount of money. It wasn't much, but it was proof that his ideas could become something real. That moment planted a seed inside him. It told him that he didn't have to wait for the future. He could build it himself. At 17, he left South Africa for Canada, carrying little more than a suitcase and a belief that North America was the place where big dreams could come true. He worked odd jobs to survive, including cleaning boilers and cutting logs. It wasn't glamorous, but it taught him resilience. Every difficult job reminded him that he was willing to do whatever it took to get closer to his goals. He eventually moved to the United States to study at the University of Pennsylvania. There, he pursued degrees in physics and economics, believing that understanding both science and business would give him the tools to shape the future. While other students were focused on traditional careers, Musk was already thinking about industries he could transform: the internet, energy, and space. In the mid-1990s, the internet was still a wild frontier. Many people didn't understand its potential, but Musk saw it clearly. He dropped out of a PhD program at Stanford after only 2 days to start a company called Zip2 with his brother, Kimball. They worked tirelessly, sleeping in the office, showering at the YMCA, and pouring all their energy into the business. They didn't have much money, but they had determination. Zip2 provided online city guides for newspapers, something that seems ordinary today but was revolutionary at the time. After years of struggle, the company was sold for nearly $300 million. Musk walked away with about $22 million. For many people, that would have been the finish line. He was still young, already wealthy, and could have chosen a comfortable life. But comfort was never his goal. Instead of slowing down, he went all in again. He used his money to start X.com, an online financial services company. At the time, the idea of banking on the internet was still new and uncertain. People didn't trust digital payments. But Musk believed the future of money would be electronic. X.com eventually merged with another company and became PayPal. The journey wasn't smooth. There were internal conflicts, leadership struggles, and moments of deep uncertainty. At one point, Musk was pushed out as CEO. It was a painful experience, but he didn't give up on the company. When PayPal was eventually sold to eBay for $1.5 billion in stock, Musk walked away with around $180 million. Now he had enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. He could have bought islands, yachts, and mansions. But instead, he chose something far riskier. He decided to invest nearly all of his money into 3 industries that most people considered impossible for a newcomer: space, electric cars, and solar energy. In 2002, he founded SpaceX with the goal of making space travel more affordable and eventually sending humans to Mars. The idea sounded absurd to many. The space industry was dominated by governments and massive corporations. A private company, especially a new one, had almost no chance of competing. Experts told him it couldn't be done, but Musk didn't listen to the experts who said it was impossible. He studied rocket science himself, reading textbooks and talking to engineers. He believed that rockets were so expensive because of inefficient processes, not because they had to be. If he could build them more efficiently, he could reduce costs dramatically. Around the same time, he invested heavily in Tesla, an electric car company that was struggling to survive. Electric cars were seen as slow, boring, and impractical. Most major car companies had abandoned them. But Musk believed the future of transportation had to be electric. He wanted to prove that electric cars could be fast, beautiful, and desirable. He also supported SolarCity, a company focused on solar energy, because he believed the world needed sustainable power sources. To Musk, these three companies were not separate ventures. They were parts of one larger mission, ensuring a sustainable and exciting future for humanity. But dreams are expensive. And by 2008, everything was falling apart. SpaceX had launched 3 rockets, and all 3 had failed. Each launch cost millions of dollars. Each failure brought the company closer to collapse. Engineers were exhausted. Investors were losing faith. The press began calling SpaceX a foolish experiment. At the same time, Tesla was on the brink of bankruptcy. The company was struggling with production issues, rising costs, and skeptical customers. Money was running out fast. Employees were worried about their jobs. Some people thought the entire electric car idea was doomed. Musk was personally running out of money too. He had invested almost everything he had into these companies. His fortune from PayPal was nearly gone. He even had to borrow money for personal expenses. Friends and family urged him to step back, to protect what little he had left. But he couldn't. He believed too strongly in the mission. The pressure was intense. He was going through a difficult divorce. Both of his major companies were on the verge of collapse. Every day felt like a countdown to failure. Then came the 4th launch of the Falcon 1 rocket in September 2008. It was the last chance for SpaceX. If it failed, the company would likely shut down. Years of work, billions in dreams, and the hopes of everyone involved would disappear. The team worked with quiet determination. There was no room left for mistakes. When the rocket finally launched, it climbed into the sky and, for the first time, reached orbit successfully. It was a historic moment. SpaceX had done what many said was impossible. The success of that launch changed everything. It gave the company credibility. Soon after, SpaceX secured a major contract from NASA worth $1.6 billion. That contract kept the company alive and set it on the path to becoming a leader in space exploration. Tesla also managed to survive. In the final days of 2008, the company secured a crucial round of funding that prevented bankruptcy. It wasn't easy. Musk had to scrape together every possible dollar, convincing investors and even using his last personal funds to keep the company alive. Those moments of near collapse became the turning point. Instead of failing, both companies began to grow. Over the next decade, SpaceX achieved milestone after milestone. It developed the Falcon 9 rocket, which could be reused after landing back on Earth. This innovation drastically reduced the cost of space travel. Rockets that once burned up in the atmosphere after a single use could now fly again and again. The sight of a rocket booster landing upright on a drone ship in the ocean became one of the most iconic images in modern technology. It looked like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But it was real. And it was happening because one man refused to accept the limits others believed in. SpaceX eventually began sending astronauts to the International Space Station, becoming the first private company to do so. It also started developing Starship, a massive rocket designed for missions to the Moon and Mars. Musk's dream of making humanity a multiplanetary species was no longer just an idea. It was becoming a plan. Tesla, meanwhile, transformed the auto industry. The company launched the Model S, a sleek electric sedan that proved electric cars could be luxurious and high-performing. It won awards and changed public perception. Suddenly, electric cars were not just practical, they were desirable. Tesla continued with the Model 3, a more affordable vehicle aimed at the mass market. It became one of the best-selling electric cars in the world. Traditional automakers, once skeptical, began investing heavily in their own electric models. The shift toward electric vehicles accelerated across the entire industry. Musk's journey from near bankruptcy to global influence became one of the most talked about stories in modern business. But the success didn't come from luck. It came from an unusual mindset. He was willing to risk everything for ideas he believed were important. He wasn't driven by comfort or security. He was driven by purpose. He often said that if something is important enough, you should try, even after the victories, the successful launches, the record-breaking car sales, and the global recognition, the journey never truly felt finished for Elon Musk. For him, success was not a destination where you stop and celebrate forever. It was simply proof that the next impossible idea might also become real. He continued to speak about Mars, about building cities beyond Earth, about a future where humanity would not be limited to one fragile planet. Many people still called those dreams unrealistic. But they had said the same things about reusable rockets. They had said the same things about electric cars becoming mainstream. And yet, here they were. Musk often reminded people that the path to something great is never smooth. It is filled with doubt, criticism, sleepless nights, and moments where everything seems lost. But those moments are not signs to stop. They are tests to see how badly you want the future you are fighting for. His story is not just about rockets, cars, or billion-dollar companies. It is about belief. It is about the courage to stand alone with an idea when the world laughs at it. It is about risking comfort for purpose, security for possibility, and the present for a better tomorrow. From near bankruptcy to building spacecraft that touch the edge of the stars, his journey proves a simple but powerful truth: the future belongs to those who refuse to give up on it. And sometimes, the biggest dreams are born in the moments when everything seems ready to fall apart.